Well, howdy ho there, everybody. How are we doing today? Hope you're all doing absolutely peachy and fantastic. We're continuing on with our playthrough as Bretonia in Total War Warhammer 3. The only mod I do have on a mod, is the no aversion mod because I wanted to see how much that affected relationships and stuff like that. And it turns out not that much, but I will tell you, basically, in the last part of the playthrough, when I was looking around, I was like, going, well, it's not really too many people I want to invade that are like right next to me because I don't want to invade my neighbors or anything like that. However, Nakari, the weirdo, is right there, and I was like, wait a minute, what if I destroyed Nakari and all their Slaaneshi weirdness? And so I decided to do that, and that ended up with me going all the way to the island of Uthwan and basically doing a bunch of things. It was actually pretty neat. I got to get to Uthwan, and I think I got the Fey Enchantress at like level 23. Ended up doing a lot of fighting, and the thing that was really funny to me though was that the thing that gave me the most trouble was not actually Nakari or any of that stuff. It was actually the Drowned, who had the Sword of Cain, and I had a big army, and turns out it wasn't quite big enough, so I brought extra people, and yeah. Anyway, but yeah, it's really cool. I by defeating a bunch of these Slaaneshi acolytes and destroying a bunch of their nonsense, I got to um, go ahead and become friends with a bunch of high elves and stuff like that, which I think is pretty cool. I've often like being friends with people, and I like getting diplomacy and getting trade deals and things like that. And by going around and killing a bunch of Slaaneshi people, I ended up earning the high elves' favor pretty strong, which was pretty cool. I also ended up just destroying the Dakari faction pretty early. It didn't actually take very long. And at first, I wasn't going to go to war with these guys, but then I was looking around. And I was like, well, I want to be friends with the High Elves. And one of the easiest ways to make myself more of a friend with High Elves and not have to worry about being invaded from the side later anyway, because, some factions are very aggressive. I don't actually know if the undead pirate people are super aggressive. I just had a feeling they were. So I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to build up a bunch of stuff, and I'm going to go ahead and start attacking westward. Now, one of the other things that was kind of funny was this was where I got my first military alliance. I was kind of hoping to get a military alliance with other people in Bretonia or something like that, but no, it ended up being that my first military alliance was actually with the High Elves, and it was actually with Averlon, which is actually how I got my first alliance when I was playing High Elves as well. And I will also say that since I had just recently gone to Ulthuan, I was like, oh man, it would actually be really cool to continue fighting in Ulthuan and go ahead and fight there and all that good stuff. I am also getting way more into Bretonia. I was looking at getting like one of the old paperback Bretonian books. Here's the thing about that. Prices were fairly ridiculous. The only one I saw, at least on eBay, when I was looking briefly, that wasn't like insane was like $25, and it was $25, but it was also from the UK, so it was $25 and then $19 of shipping. So it's like, oh well, doesn't really help. And the cheapest I could find after that was just $44 with $6 of economy shipping. The other thing about that, and you can see here we got the defensive line. The other thing about that was that I saw that there was one that was like $95. Another that was like $125. I've considered buying the old world book, but I don't know. I just have like a collection of the old books, and Britannia is one of the ones I never got. Which I guess, considering the prices now, I should have gotten it way back then, huh? But that's okay. Anyway, yeah, it was going pretty well, and this also had an inadvertent kind of benefit as I was going through. And there's a part in there where I face off against Giganto Crab Lady, and she's angry, and she ended up killing a lot of my infantry units. And what actually that ended up being a good thing because at this point I had unlocked questing Knights of the Realm, Knights Errant, Yeoman on horses and stuff like that, and I ended up using a lot of those to build up my army after I got smacked around a little bit. So that was pretty cool. I will also say that I think I was also helped out quite a bit by having the High Elves so close by and willing to help me. Um, I still think the Oath one is probably one of my favorite places in game. It's just like really pretty. I really like going there, and I really like being friendly with people there. I also tried to improve my economy a bit so that I could actually, build up armies going in multiple directions. Although I did find it funny, as Bretonia, I think this is the fastest I've ever gotten so far west, at least in terms of like, because if I was playing the Empire, I would have had to go through Bretonia to get to Ulthuan. But since I'm just playing Bretonia, I can just go west, and that's kind of cool. And if this keeps up, I'll end up all the way west, and maybe I can make friends with lizard people. And I've always wanted to make friends with lizard people. That's why I have lizard friends. I go up to lizards and I go, "Hello, I'm a cat. Would you like to lizard?" And then they're like, "Wow, what a cultured individual." That's what they say. They say every time they're like, "Oh, wow, what a cultured individual." During this first battle here, I thought maybe I could turn the tide, but I was kind of having a hard time with that, and I ended up losing a lot of dudes. And it was partially one of those things where I'm like, well, I want to be able to fight back and stuff like that. I don't really think I deployed the best tactics here either. Honestly, in a lot of these, when my tactics is to just get on a hill and have them have to run up at me, because having them be tired and stuff like that tends to help out a decent bit, I think. And it ended up not working out that great. Well, partially because it wasn't just one army or two armies, but actually three armies that we ended up fighting against. And one of them was being led by their main lord, who had all kinds of crap with them. And it ended up being just a problem. However, I will say that just the Bretonian soldiers standing next to each other in this game, I think they look really pretty. I think it looks really nice. Something that I wouldn't have thought that I would care about, but I find that I like units that look good in like groups together, like in big armies that are like moving together as units. I tend to like that a lot more than like really shambly type armies. I think that's actually another reason I ended up liking other things a lot more than ogres. Because ogres, there's so many just big guys that they kind of spread out, that they look kind of more like mobs rather than like actual trained soldiers. And I think the trained soldiers just kind of look cooler, I think. Um, they end up also being, I just think the red and the blue together also looks really nice. I will say that something that I noticed as I fought all these guys is that I forgot how little I actually like the pirate undead. I've just never been very okay. So I've never been really big on pirates, right? Just for some reason, just never really appealed to me all that much. And it goes like that, like a little kid thing of like, well, knights, pirates, ninjas. And it's like I always like knights and ninjas, but I never liked pirates as much. Then again, I have seen the Pirates of the Caribbean movie. I think they're okay, but when it comes to things like the Age of Sail, I do have some interest in it, and I actually have a decent amount of interest in it, partially for studying colonial history and like history of like when multiple empires were just spreading out all over the place, and Age of Sail getting as much land as they possibly could. And it's actually kind of funny because if you do some research into that, a lot of it was just because they would just, when they went to the New World, they had so much debt. Oh, we can pay off our debt, but instead of paying off their debt, they just took on more debt. But I mean, that's like a whole thing. Like, if you know about governments tend to do this thing where they just kind of take on a lot of debt, and it's a whole thing. But I was also really enjoying going through this particular area because I don't know why these settlements are so valuable, but for some reason I took just a couple of settlements and my income shot way up. Actually, I ended up taking a decent number of settlements. I ended up taking like most of the western coast and northern coast of Ulthuan, and that ended up being very useful to me, money wise, and it made so I could afford stronger, bigger armies, which of course is a really good thing to have. Look, if you're going to defend yourself, sometimes you need to have a decent sized army, and it's pretty good. I think I've talked about this before. I have this tendency not to try and not have too many armies at once. Partially because I think it just gets expensive, and I don't like how quickly you can get screwed into like being bankrupt and then just losing your troops anyway. But at the same time, if you do it properly and if you take a decent amount of land, then it's much less of an issue, and you can actually really kind of come out on top with it, which I think is really well worth doing. I also think that it's well worth doing to kind of look and see what kind of armies you're going to be facing, because spearmen do better against big old creatures, and it makes it a lot better. And it was at that point that I was like, okay, we're not going to bother with this. And I tried again. I was like, well, maybe I can kind of work this to my favor. And see, what actually ended up making it to my favor here is I realized that what I could do is see, because here I'm like, I want to retreat, but I can't retreat because of my placement. What I realized though is I can move my placement where I am and make it so that it's actually easier. See, because I moved this guy way over here and they attacked him, and then I could retreat. I had plenty of land to retreat, and because I kind of spread them out, then my friends over here, Erelon, came in and helped. And because I also had the Fey Enchantress, then we could clear out these other guys. It actually ended up being really effective. Army placement is very important, but of course I think a lot of you probably already know that in this game. And having better troops and making sure that you're in good positions and trying to make sure that when you fight people, they're in places where they're not going to bother you or disrupt things. That's a really good way to do it. And of course, in this particular case, I was also using my friends, my allies, to help me kind of push these guys out, and it ended up being pretty good, even though my Fey Enchantress had a really nice sized army. But as you can see here, it's going to be a Pyrrhic victory, and I'm going to lose a lot of stuff, but we did manage to beat her, so that was good. But then I now have to go back and start recruiting again. And we do end up taking the Griffin Gate. So we have one of the gates to Ulthuan, which is very, very good. I don't know why occasionally she just says a weird, arrogant line like, usually they kneel. Like, I don't know what that's about. But it's okay. Also, here's where the game got a little weird to me. I rejected the sword and then immediately lost the blessing of the lady. Am I supposed to take her? I didn't want to take the sword because it's literally will like make you want to like massacre people. I didn't think it was worth it. Also here, I wanted to help out our friend, so I did. Lost a bunch of stuff in the process, but that's okay. We ended up I ended up needing to like basically build my lady with the Fey Enchantress up from scratch. But you know what? It's really worth it. And then this happens where she's like, hey, you want to join War Against the Pleasure Cult? I'm like, well, I guess that's more land we can take, so sure. But you can actually see here, we took quite a bit of land in Ulthuan. But that's okay. We're sharing with the High Elves. But yeah, anyway, so I think it was pretty cool, and I was really enjoying this. I'm really glad we got to do Bretonnia. I think Bretonnia is actually coming up in such a way where I'm really having fun with it. Anyway, thank you so much for stopping by, and if you have any suggestions for where I should expand on the mainland of the old world, that would be good to know. I guess I could go south, but anyway, yeah, let me know. Anyway, I love you. God loves you. Bye-bye. Love you. Bye. Have a great one.